Hello guys, welcome to M&D Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. Today we're going to be looking at the difference between an M&D framework and a results framework. This is going to be pretty short because it's pretty straightforward, and I know we get this confusion a lot sometimes, but I want to keep it as simple as possible. But in case you're here for the first time, and I know I get new subscribers every day. So if you're here for the very first time and you don't know who I am, my name is Coach Alexander. I've been doing this for 10 years now. I've been enjoying every moment of it, and I really want you to support this channel. So please subscribe to this channel, continue viewing the latest updates I bring to all the people all over the world. Okay, so please also support this channel by buying some of the face masks. The link is in the description. We also have good t-shirts that are being sold at a reasonable price. So support this channel and get yourself one of these items. And if you're not in the mood to buy anything, you can still get things for free. We've got the two ebooks, the Monitoring and the Evaluation Beginner's Guide and Learn Logical Framework Analysis Step-by-Step Guide. So these are totally free. You can get them in the link description below. And how to set up a monitoring and evaluation system step by step. It's a good course hosted on Udemy. Okay, so now like I mentioned, all right, and also maybe I want to mention that in case this video will be long, or even if it's short, but you want to skip certain parts of this video, you can use the timestamps in the description below. Okay, so without wasting any more time, let's just get straight into business. Okay, so what is the M&D framework? I've talked about this thing a lot. So the key is that in every M&D framework, you need to have these variables. You need to have the indicator. Okay, you list the indicator, whether it's the goal, outcome, or output. You define it. You have the baseline, the target, data source, frequency of reporting, responsible person, and the actual reporting. So if we go in practice, if you go to this example here, this is an example of a field in M&D framework. So now I want to mention that in order to develop this M&D framework, for those of you who are here for the first time, I know maybe some of you have seen this before, but in order to develop a monitoring and evaluation framework, it has to be well aligned to the logical framework, okay? So what that means is that everything that you see here is the same. It's the same way it appears in the logical framework, except that you won't have the definition, you won't have the baseline, you won't have the target, data source, frequency, responsible person, and reporting in the logical framework. But instead, you probably have the indicators, you have the assumptions, and you have I think I've forgotten the other things, but I know you know what I'm talking about. So those are the other things you have in the logical framework, okay? Then on this other side, you have the goal, which is the impact, the outcome, the outputs, the activities, all right? And that's what will make, so it for the M&D framework, it doesn't just end at the outcome level, but it goes even beyond that. You have the outputs and the activities. Okay, so what is the results framework? This is very interesting because you have certain times when you need to write a proposal and they ask you to provide a results framework. Okay, so a results framework, it's really, as the name suggests, it's a portrayal of how you're going to achieve your results. Let's say you want to achieve a community free of poverty, okay, as an example. The question is, how are you going to achieve that result? Okay, it's similar to what you see in a log frame or M&D framework. You have outcomes, impact. It's similar, except that the way it's presented is different. And this is an example of a results framework. So I got this from, you can just go to the internet, you type fish trade results framework or M&D framework. You get to a site which actually has this project. So it's a very interesting project, and actually their document is quite bulky. I have a soft copy of their document. I'll leave it in the link description below, okay, so that you can appreciate. So I want to also mention that it's interesting. It's very interesting because some people don't really, sometimes we don't have a standard definition to to these things, okay? But if you look at the fish trade project, the results framework, actually the impact is supposed to be up there and then outcome is supposed to be down there. So this just actually comes to show that in different organizations, they have their own way of defining these things, but sometimes it just means the same thing, because ultimately, if you look at the way the results are building up all the way up to here, you can tell that this is the highest level indicator. But in actual sense, the impact is supposed to be up here. Okay, so guys, you take note of that. You may see these mistakes sometimes, but this is what I'm telling you. The impact is supposed to be the highest level indicator for any project, and then you have the outcome. So now the results framework, instead of having this in a log frame, you have the first of all the inputs. I know you can't see, but you see my cursor there. Actually, this is the lowest part of the results framework, which is the inputs and processes. So these feed into the results, okay? So the results in this case are at different levels. So you have the results at the lowest level, which is, for instance, in this particular case, it's talking about trade outcomes adopted, then it builds up to results 2.2 certificate procedures and standards developed, then it builds up to 2.3, 2.4, and until finally there's another level that it builds up to. So now the thing is that what you get here is that these results, if all these results are achieved, okay, get it from just by looking at it, it gives you an indication of what their theory is or what their logic is that if you have intra-regional fish trade market information enhanced, fishery policy and regulatory frameworks strengthened, capacities of private sector associations on market engaged strengthened, and fishery operation frameworks strengthened, what you're going to get is food and nutritional security and wealth generation among African fish-dependent communities enhanced. So now what they are saying is that if you get all of these, if you achieve all these results, the impact is going to be that you get an enhanced food and nutritional security and wealth generation among African fish development communities. And then the long-term outcome will be intra-regional fish trade in Africa improved. So you can see that the presentation is so different from what you get in a logical framework or M&D framework, because what you're doing now, you're just coming up with these boxes and trying to present your case in a logical manner. So this is an example of a results framework. So now just give me a few seconds. Perhaps let us go onto the internet right now. I want to show you that this is just not unique to the fish trade results framework, but it's what people have adopted. This format is what the many organizations have adopted. So let's ask Uncle Google to feed us more information on what format they use, so that you don't really get confused, but you understand how the results framework really is. Okay, just 1 second. Guys, welcome back. I'm on Google right now, and I guess let's get straight into business. So normally what I do, I'll just type results framework. It's very easy really. And many people are searching for this term. You've got results framework template, results framework example template. So you probably will find a template for a results framework. I'll try by all means to come up with a template for you, my friends, because I know you may need this in your future. Okay, so without even taking too long, I'll just go to the images and it's going to give me some example of results framework. So you can see there are so many different examples of results frameworks. So if you open this image here, let me try and increase it. Let's see what it does for us. So I'm on the USAID website, and if you go down here, it gives you an example of a result framework. So now what happens is others have different ways of presenting a results framework. The USAID has this example of a results framework where they have sub-intermediate results, okay, at the lowest level. Then you've got the intermediate result, and then you've got the development objective, and then you've got the goal, all right? So like I earlier mentioned, the goal is actually the highest level. This is the impact. Okay, so let me close that one. Let's look at another example. This is another USAID climate change and development strategy. Let's open it and see what they have to say in terms of a results framework. Okay, so forgive me, sometimes this laptop likes to freeze a lot. I don't know what it is with Windows 10. Ever since Windows 10 came into the limelight, everything seems to freeze every now and then. Okay, so it's still freezing. It's still freezing, and this is what I don't like. Okay, so the results framework is here. Let me try to increase it. Okay, I'm sure you can see it. So this is another example of a results framework, and they follow the same format, except that uh, in this particular case, of course, they have the sub-intermediate results feeding into the intermediate results. Then you have the strategic objective. Then now this strategic objective will ultimately feed to the goal or impact. Okay, wonderful. All right, now let me look at another example. We've seen the USAID example. Could there be any other? Okay, let's look at this one. They are calling this the generic results framework. Okay, so generic in the sense that this is what is commonly used. So Save the Children also uses the same. They have the intermediate results, strategic objective, and goals. And you don't need to have just one strategic objective. You can have even 2, 3, 4 strategic objectives, but below each strategic objective, you have an intermediate result. So I think the reason why some organizations will prefer using a results framework is because it is much easier and straightforward to understand the logic. Okay, it is so much easier to understand the logic when you use a results framework. Okay, so I'm opening one final one before we call it a day. Okay, results framework and log frame. Okay, so there it is. Let me try to increase so that we get a good view. So it looks like, guys, the most common one is actually these types. You have the outputs here, they even go below further to say outputs feeding into the intermediate results and the strategic objectives feeding into the goal. So this is really what I know. Okay, so let me hear what you think. Please don't hesitate to write to me and let me hear your thoughts on this. What do you find better to use? Do you find it easier to use a log frame? Do you find it easier to use a results framework or just have an M&D framework? Write to me and then we could even sharpen each other's skills. I've been your host, Coach Alexander. Until we meet again, see you on the other side. Bye.